You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Thanks so much for tuning in today. With so many podcast choices out there, I truly appreciate the fact that you're picking today's episode. You're going to gain a lot of insights today, a lot of inspiration around the payment processing of your store. Now, I know a lot of people would just be under the assumption that, hey, it's so easy. I have my Shopify store, I sign up, and their Shopify Payments is already ready to go, and they use Stripe as their banking partner, and it just all of a sudden, things just happen to work. The reality, though, is that there's a lot of markets that Shopify Payments does not accept. And trust me, being a former Shopify employee, I've gone through quite a few difficult conversations with merchants around the fact that, hey, unfortunately, you're in the CBD or other regulated markets, you're an adult, or you're in gaming, or you're in firearms, and all these different things. And it just goes down a really interesting path of, okay, well, now what do we do? And then you have to go down this journey of trying to find a payment gateway, and then also going down the whole journey of trying to find a payment processor then that connects to that gateway. And then there's additional costs. Unfortunately, a really kind of ugly situation. But I think the reason why I have my guest on today, his name is Bill Glass, co-founder of a company called AltruPay. What's interesting about their business, and we're going to learn a lot about today, is that they're really there to help these industries, these high-risk classified industries like the firearms and CBD and others, and or if you've got Shutdown from Shopify Payments, they really are the holy grail of helping you get back up and running quickly, or if you know you're launching into a brand new business that's in a regulated market, that you'll just go directly to them as the first shot instead of waiting to see if Shopify Payments is going to approve you or not. So anyways, Bill, welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. It's so interesting. And it seems like, unfortunately, your business, as great as it is, and I think it sounds like it's a fantastic opportunity and you really are helping a lot of people, it seems that people come to you more as a reactive, unfortunately, because of the fact that Shopify Payments has shut them down, because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, in regulated markets. So what's your lay of the land about how your business fits into the ecosystem where, hey, if you can get on Shopify Payments, go for it. We're not for you, however, and I'd like to see how you fit in the market and the ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. So AltruPay was built on the foundation of altruism, which is to always put our customers first. And in the regulated markets, specifically those that their core focus is to utilize Shopify. And don't get me wrong, Shopify is amazing at what it does. It is an e-commerce behemoth. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they are partnered with Stripe. And the risk categories for Stripe, as any bank, are exactly what traditional banks are, very conservative. So just two off the top of my head that I think of is firearms and CBD. Firearms is not a big bad wolf, right? Like it's very simple. Heck, I say this all the time to people, and I just spoke at a really large trade show about this. They've got more to lose. FFL merchants have more to lose than any of us. They don't follow the letter of the law. It's a felony. So they just do what they think they do. They log on to Shopify. Mm-hmm. They sign up for a merchant account. They are automatically approved because it's a PayFac style approval with Stripe. And then Stripe comes back and says, hey, by the way, 30 days later, we're going to go ahead and keep all your money and review this for risk concerns. And then what do? They don't know. They got to come find someone like us. And that's what we see a lot. So AltruPay's foundation around altruism is really important, that we just spread the word and talk, and we're unfortunately having to be very reactionary to these type of people, but we're here for them.
Right. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges that can happen for brands that get shut down? Because I know you likely have a lot of like firsthand experience of dealing with people or dealing with Shopify. I have my own stories that I might interject, but I just would love to hear from your perspective about people that you've had to migrate over and have really helped because they have been shut down. What's typically this process look like?
Well, I kind of alluded to it. So typically when they get shut down, funds are held. They'll get a nice big letter that says, we have shut your account down and held all your money. We need you to do this, this, and this. And there's typically some type of concern behind it. The banks have up to 180 days legally to hold funds. I always challenge everybody to go read your terms and conditions. But ultimately at that point, we're, like I said, acting reactionary. So we're here, we take a phone call, we walk them through what needs to be done. We're able to underwrite and onboard them. We underwrite everything up front. So it's not like Stripe where you just go fill out 12 lines of information, get approved and go. We do everything up front. So that way our banks know exactly what you do, how you do it, etc. And you're not getting shut down, but you can still utilize the entire e-commerce platform of Shopify. We just connect via a third-party tool.
I see. And then, so just for those listening, just so you understand, because I think a lot of people are just kind of used to the thought of like just turning on Shopify Payments. They don't really understand the underlying technology to make all of this work. So there really are two pieces of the puzzle here. One is going to be the payment gateway, and then one is going to be the merchant account or the connections to the bank. So can you just walk us through that and how you connect and through what network, and then these banking relationships you have? Is it Visa, MasterCard, Amex? Is Amex separate? And then are there any other kind of credit cards internationally that are available? Because I can remember some conversations with others from international cards that are not Visa, Amex, and American Express. So I just would like to understand a little bit of these two pieces of the puzzle, the gateway and then the merchant bank.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually break it down into three. So you have your payment gateway, you have your merchant bank, and then you have your card networks. So we run on all the what we call credit rails, and that's going to include your core basics, right? Your Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex. At that point, we also have some that piggyback certain networks, so like JCB. And I mean, if there's a card out there that's logoed by Visa or MasterCard, or even if it's part of its own rail, like the debit rail, we can still process because we piggyback off of Visa or MasterCard typically. And they're just giving accessibility. They're not giving us decision-making. They're not giving us right or wrong answer type scenarios. It is purely just we're jumping on their train to process those international cards. The merchant banks. So are the banks, we develop a risk profile with all of our banks. That risk profile includes typical mitigation for risk concerns like disputes and a few other things. And we know going into our daily tasks every day and every merchant we speak to, whether we can or cannot accept you. And so when you call AltruPay and we're saying, hey, Shopify shut me down, and we're saying, yeah, we can do it, we already know what to expect. So we'll typically go to the firearms guy and say, hey, send us your corporate articles, send us a few other supporting documents, send us your FFL. And then we have programs where we tie into the ATF and we check and balance these supporting documents. And then we approve the account. Once we approve the account, we have to have a tool that connects and communicates with Shopify. The easiest tool to use is Authorize.net. Shopify and Authorize.net have been teamed up for years upon years. Shopify's tried going on their own and doing away with it, and they get the backlash every time. So they come back to it. And what it's really doing is it's giving accessibility. It's giving accessibility to merchants of markets that Stripe doesn't support, but still want to use Shopify e-commerce. So those three scenarios that I explained are the three scenarios of kind of the base, we'll call it the baseline foundation, right? A merchant comes in, we underwrite them with our merchant bank, they're approved, we build out we call it onboarding, but we build out their account for Authorize.net, we send it over to them, we give them a couple pieces of what we call an auth key and an API key, and they go into the back of their Shopify Payments store. Instead of selecting Shopify Payments, they'll select Authorize.net, plug those keys in, and now we can communicate, and they can communicate with us utilizing all of the benefits of Shopify. And they don't have to worry about the risk, right? Because like I said, we're underwriting at the merchant bank side, everything up front. So there's no concern post-approval of being shut down or funds held or anything like that.
Interesting. Now, what about people that are listening that are running retail? So let's say they have a CBD store in their state that's legal, and they are considering to use Shopify POS, or they're thinking about another POS system. Can you walk us through how that all works and how does it pair up nicely with their online store?
Yeah, so this is a little brutal honesty. I don't think Shopify POS is a good position for specifically retail or omni-channel approach for CBD, just because the most recent adaptation that they did to their system created a huge severing tie between the online and the POS. And they have not built, nor have they allowed anybody to come in and build a communication tool between the Shopify POS and the Shopify back, the e-commerce back-end piece.
I see.
When we come in right now, in every other credit card processor is very limited on what we can do on the POS side until Shopify is able to kind of build a bridge for that. This whole scenario, I think, is less than 45, 60 days old that just happened. So We're seeing it from that perspective. Shopify is phenomenal. I don't want to discount that. Their ability for drop shipping and just all of their integrated pieces, it is phenomenal. There are other point of sale companies out there that provide the omni-channel, that give you the freedom, is the best way to put it. And that goes back to what I was talking about when we have our initial conversations of, do we stay on board with Shopify or do we offboard them and onboard them to a different platform? And that's really just going to come down to the business owner, what their goals are, etc. But anybody using Shopify POS should have gotten a nice little email and said, hey, we're discontinuing authorized.net, and, probably in a little bit of a frenzy, if not yet.
Yeah.
They may be soon.
Yeah. I guess from their perspective, I could see them trying to unify Shop Pay and being able to have their loyalty solution that's now native work like kind of cross device and from the web to the store. Because I know there's been lots of problems in the past of like syncing coupon codes and discount codes and stuff, and buying gift cards online, but then coming in store and trying to use it. And there was a lot of middleware to sync these things. And I've gone down this cluster. And I think that's what they're trying to figure out is like, okay, well, non-regulated markets, you're going to take Shopify Payments. It just kind of is what it is. And you get Shop Pays, the accelerated option, but it works online and in store, and it's one kind of logged in experience. Asking for an email address and you already have an account on the online store. I can see how all of that works. But on the flip side though, so what do you see people connecting to your system? Like what are the up and coming or most recommended kind of POS systems?
So for CBD, I'll tell you the top one is, I believe they're top 5 retail point of sale group. It's definitely called Celerant Technologies.
Celerant, yeah, okay.
They work really well in the CBD space. They've got an entire omni-channel platform that runs, walks, and talks a lot like the communication between your online sales and your Shopify POS. They do a lot of digital marketing for the CBD space, which is a whole nother conversation you and I could have another day that would probably take hours. Yeah. And so not only are they creating all these integrations, but they're also creating integrations with very large retail groups that allow them to bring their SKU counts in and bring products already in, and they don't have to go and load it already. And it's a really good solution for CBD shops for sure.
I see. Yeah, I'm looking at them now at Celerant. So it's Celerant, Celerant.com. And so I see POS and e-commerce, and they have a mobile app and full inventory control and back office. And yeah, so it looks like this could be a very interesting option for those. And maybe it's a great potential guest to have them on the show. Because I think, once again, as much as it's, Shopify is kind of the default install for a lot of direct-to-consumer brands, maybe the POS is not necessarily the default install, but it really depends on the market that you play in. If you're in regulated, as much as you may want to be on Shopify, maybe in the long run, maybe it might make more sense to be on a more retail-friendly platform, and a platform that's already integrated and ready and understands the regulated markets better than Shopify pushing back on it and forcing you to another gateway. So.
Yeah, and I'll say also, a lot of people love Shopify, and please definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people love Shopify because when you're a 1, 2, 3 man shop, right? When you only have you and yourself or you and a partner, It is a really simple tool to build and use. Celerin has done a really good job of being that guiding tool and walking a customer through what their goal is, what they're trying to achieve, and everything else. So I do agree with you. From a regulated markets perspective, Shopify is really, and there's nothing against that, right? I'm interrupting myself here because I want everybody to understand there's nothing against Shopify's decision to go non-regulated and to not be concerned with the reputational piece. It is what it is. That's their strategy, and rightfully so. But Celerin has taken that and teamed up with integrated solution partners like AltruPay to be able to provide that full risk profile no matter what it is. And I've got a really cool story to kind of help bring it home. But I think don't discount the other guys out there for sure. But during COVID, we saw this a lot. And one of the non-regulated markets we really support is the agriculture space. And we saw a ton of sod farms. No one was building houses during COVID. So they couldn't just ship out pallets of grass like they normally would. So they had to shift entire crop models. And one of the easiest things to shift to was CBD and hemp. Well, banks were shutting them down left and right. And these are just sod farmers trying to, pay the bills and not fire people. And you can get some crazy great return on margins for hemp and CBD. Well, it goes back to those risk profiles. There were a lot of farms that got shut down because they're now growing CBD. So they're technically selling it, even though they're not selling it to the end-use consumer. So it really goes above and beyond just your normal practices and daily business of how do I shift with the market? Are the banks going to be mad at me because I shifted with the market, et cetera? So that's just all these little nuances play factors into the ultimate decision-making process. And a lot of people in the CBD space are just getting screwed because they're just trying to pay their bills. And going back to COVID, we saw that a lot.
Right. So what happens? I know you mentioned a little bit, but I just want to make sure that it's crystal clear about like the onboarding process, because I have a funny suspicion that people that are listening to this recording right now and are going to get through to the end of it, you're likely in probably a desperate state of affairs when it comes to finances right now. You've been shut down, and or you're migrating over, or you're having some POS problems with this current update that Shopify had and not connecting to authorize.net anymore. And so knowing all of these sort of reactionary things, what do you think the next steps are for people? They're like, hey, I'm having a problem. Money's being tied up. Do you think the next step is just to communicate with you directly? Like, do you want to send people over to the website? I just want to understand like what the flow would be of. There's going to be some desperate people that you can help instantly almost, and just want to understand the steps of the approval process with your banking partners and the risk profile and things like. Just step it through, just so I kind of understand, and then people listening can understand. Hey, if this ever happens to me, Bill's my guy, and they're going to make sure that I get taken care of. And here's the steps that are necessary to happen. Or if you're in the middle of something right now, here's what you can expect to happen next to get you back live again.
Yeah. So if we're going to talk about CBD shops getting shut down by Stripe on Shopify, I'm just going to tell everybody right now, there's no getting it back fixed. We have great partnerships with attorneys that can send a letter on your behalf to request funds to be released by Stripe. Again, they have up to 6 months to legally hold it. And we have tons of partnerships with other groups that can give you guidance and all of that. But the first step is go on to AltruPay.com. In the upper right-hand corner, apply now. Don't be nervous about it. You're going to fill out an online application. You're not signing your life away. This is not the approval process. What this is allowing my sales team, to receive the information, give you a call, and create a dialogue to understand what your current situation, what we need to do to get you approved. And sometimes it's as simple as getting 5, 6, 7 items over and a product SKU list of everything you're selling. Let us review it, and then we could typically have you approved within 3 to 5 business days after that. So, I mean, it can move fairly quick. And then we can also guide you along the way of interim solutions. Hey, I went and got another merchant account at my bank, but, what does that look like? We'll typically tell them, hey, you've got about another 30 days, and they're going to hold those funds. We need to get you switched over ASAP. And we walk them. That's the other big part about it is we walk them through the process. We hold their hand through it. Hey, we need this, this, and this. And you get a very detailed step-by-step email of what's expected and what's needed. We have an entire CBD team actually. And that CBD team will sit there and answer any questions you have, whether it's questions about a COA, which is a certificate of analysis on CBD products, what products are hot, what products are outdated. We'll help you put your product lists together. Our whole goal is to be able to make sure that A, you're taken care of, but more importantly, you're informed. That's the most important altruistic piece during our sales process.
What's interesting, like, Shopify is fairly transparent about with their banking partner through Stripe that, hey, here's your rate based on the plan you've signed up with. If you're on the plus side, you're getting the plus exclusive rates, and they can be negotiated based on GMV and kind of forward-looking statements and stuff like that. And that's fine. You go down that sales approach. And so it sounds like the way you run your business through the sales team and your sales team is the fact that, hey, let's understand your business. You said, hey, apply now. Let's get all the pieces together so we understand where you fit in commerce. And then from there, is it, I guess, since you don't necessarily have to publish rates, you're still going to be competitive. And it still seems to be a competitive advantage of the fact that, number one, at least you can process. Because if you're not processing, you're making no money. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, is it all based on the risk profile about how you can kind of negotiate the rate with, because I'm sure there's a base rate that just, it's flat and no one's making any money because, these credit card companies are demanding a certain percentage, whatever that number is. And then there's obviously an upcharge for your technology and then how it connects to authorized.net. So I just want to kind of understand your philosophy around how you come up with the rate. The reason I'm asking this question is because a lot of times I find when merchants are doing rate shopping, they don't really completely understand the cost plus model, like having a base rate and then all the pieces and the slices that come off. And the types of cards have all different rates associated to them if they're a points card and all of that. So, and it gets very, very confusing. And I find a lot of these, like Braintree is so famous for really hiding a lot of this stuff and not just giving a flat rate all the way through. And so I just want to hear your mindset around how you work with your current businesses that connect.
Yeah, great question. So we do typically follow the Interchange Plus model. And we do that because our focus is to reduce costs as much as possible. And what I mean by that is the interchange cost, and these are public. Anybody can go and Google Visa or MasterCard interchange table, and it's public knowledge. You can go look at it. Reading it, on the other hand, is a little bit different, and we'd love to walk through that with everyone, and we can explain what means what, etc. But if I use my Bank of America debit card, the interchange cost on that on $100 is roughly 27 cents. If I use my United Airlines card, my cost is going to be more closer to $2 on $100.
Right.
Just on the interchange piece. So when you have like a Stripe environment where they're offering a flat 2.9%, well, on $100, that's a $2.90 cost. Yeah, they're going to be losing their money on, or much less profitability on the higher United Airlines card in this example, but they're bankrolling on these debit cards. Well, in the CBD space, the average transaction's less than $150. And we've seen case studies before, we've ran them to where the average card type used on under $150 average ticket is a debit card. So you're now giving up, what is that? $2 and we'll call it, rounding up and down a little bit, 60 cents. You're giving that towards your P&L back to the bank. We want to be able to, and I know that it's hard for you to understand, everyone to understand thousands of different rate structures, but our goal behind that is to bring as much of the value, monetary value back to your shop. That's the super important part for us ultimately. We're also very transparent. So when we send over a bank agreement, we're actually going to even include what we like to call our what if fees. If you get a dispute, you're not going to be charged this chargeback fee unless you get a dispute and you don't want to enroll in our mitigation platform. So therefore, it's only a what if fee. It's only going to hit you if you use it. So we're very transparent from that perspective and laying it out there. The other piece to the puzzle of that is the regulatory and compliance monitoring. So there's a big cost behind that people don't understand. Not so much on firearms, but definitely more on CBD is we have to monitor what is being sold, and especially what we underwrote of being sold on a website. We have different tools like web crawlers and stuff that will ping a website every, once, twice a month, sometimes more than that, sometimes less than that. And what we're looking for is changes, whether it's content changes, product display changes, pictures, price ranges, all that stuff. And on the back end, it's flagging those for our risk team to review to make sure everything stays aligned, right? We can approve someone to sell CBD flower online, but if the new product got put on there, we have to be able to review the COA to make sure it follows FDA guidelines and USDA, and there's different guidelines that we have to follow. Ultimately, the 0.3% total THC piece. Our team has to review that beforehand. If we don't, we have to automatically assume worst case scenario. So, there's tons of compliance costs behind the scene, and everybody's like, well, if you're going to write me an interchange plus 3%, why is that? Well, if you're a startup, I don't know you from diddly squat. I have limited risk evaluation. I've got to monitor more closely. That is why your cost is more like interchange plus 3%. On the flip side, you're running $250,000 a month. Your rate might be interchange plus 1%. And it kind of really goes back to what you said. And the question was, is it really based on a risk profile? And that's more on a financial risk evaluation. So the more data and the more previous processing we have, we can be extremely competitive to the market. We've got a couple really large volume CBD merchants in our portfolio that are well under 1% over interchange. So that is really there. But ultimately, our goal is to put as much money as back into your pocket as possible.
One kind of final question, and I think this is good for even those that are on Shopify Payments, because I think a lot of brands are just under the impression that Shopify is going to look at each transaction. They don't talk about what their fraud scrubbing process is kind of in the back office. They do definitely have their own unique one. It's not just Stripe making the approval. It's a very unique profile that they have figured out, and they don't share it publicly about why they're putting orders on hold or outright declining them and stuff like that. And I've been recommending a lot of solutions to connect, like it's no fraud or count or sift or I don't know. There's a lot of radial fraud, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different kind of potential platforms that can connect to Shopify and through Stripe. And I guess the feedback I want to give to people listening today is like, hey, if you're on payments, there might be an opportunity to actually make more money by a lot of these transactions that are being like either put on hold or outright canceled because there's not a human that's actually like double checking to verify that maybe it is valid. And I want to know how that compares to like, and if you're recommending these sorts of tools, because I think that's another option is like, because we just finished talking about the cost factor, like, the interchange plus pricing model based on their business. But on the flip side, if they were to get into one of these platforms, maybe their conversion rate is going to go up because there's going to be more approvals net, because that's kind of what the value prop is of a lot of these platforms. They try to show the ROI of, you pay us $500 a month, $1,000 a month, or a certain amount of money per transaction. But we get more approvals than Shopify's gateway through Stripe. So I just want to hear your feedback on that, I guess.
Yeah. So in comparison to that model, we partner with a company called Pay, Paay. They're a 3D secure vendor, which is part of our mitigation platform on the front end of the e-commerce sell. And what it's doing is it's pinging the networks and it's saying, is this person really them? Would they really buy something like this time of the day, this day of the week, this time of the year? Are they, et cetera, et cetera? And where it really separates itself from other mitigation platforms that do what we call transaction scrubbing, like Account or one of those, is it is not forcing a next layer decision, meaning what is the next logic? And it can, but it also allows you to go into a hold and review status, or maybe you're a big affiliate person and you're trying to get new affiliate traffic and you're trying to decipher whether this traffic is good traffic or not. So you put 3D secure on the front end of the transaction, those transactions get authenticated, And the beautiful part is the ones that do get authenticated, if they ever dispute, it shifts the liability from the acquirer, me, AltruPay, to the issuer, whatever bank issued that customer their credit card or a debit card. So there is a massive benefit from a dispute handling perspective, but it also says, maybe I'm going to say, hey, I've got some heavy traffic coming in and I don't want the system to make an approval decline decision off of it, but I just want the data. I want the raw data. I want to know if they are authenticating, great. If they're not authenticating, why? What's my percentage of authentication? And that's really going to tell a story. We always say, hey, screw that. Skip the crawl stage. Let's start walking. So, go get a bunch of traffic and run it through there, and we're able to see it. And we're taking people by doing that, we're increasing clean authorizations. And then on top of that, we are helping them identify good traffic and bad traffic. And we're cutting dispute rates dramatically. We've taken a gaming client not too long ago that we did that platform with, and they were roughly between 3 and 5% month over month on dispute levels. And we implemented 3D Secure on the front end, and it took them down a little over 1%. And we added alerts on the back end, which auto refund disputes on the back end, and that obviously brought them well under 1%. So we took this client who was running $500,000 a month and running what we call hot, 3 to 5% dispute rates, because Visa, MasterCard wants you under 1. We put them under 1, and now all of a sudden they're doing $750,000 to $1 million a month. And they're in better guidelines with Visa, MasterCard. So using these mitigation tools are great. I am always weary about using integrated mitigation tools through e-commerce platforms.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because there's typically an additional algorithm involved with something into the decision-making process. And so that's just kind of, my internal take on it. But, I always like to use third parties, especially those with APIs where I can control the life cycle of the checkout process and really control what's happening during that checkout process, have visibility to it.
Yeah, because there are so many partners that, like Signifyd and Riskified and you know them all. This is your space, right? So it's so interesting. And their value prop is trying to prove getting more successful transactions instead of these on holds or these soft declines that really shouldn't be declined. But for some reason, Shopify's risk profile is a little bit different than others. They say they want to approve most things, but they also feel if there's chargebacks or wherever their data is coming from, they're making decisions, and I know it irritates some people. And that's the benefit of having maybe a third party solution, or this one with this PAAY .co. I just filled out their contact form. I think is another potential opportunity to have them on the show just to learn more about how we can help people, and that's kind of why you're on the show today too. It's just I just want thank you for coming on the show. I think this has been I kind of chatted to you before recording, which is I've not had any technology partner like yourself on that really helps these regulated markets, especially CBD, which is a hot direct-to-consumer kind of product, and it's going to continue to grow. So I just think that you are a notable solution. I just want to thank you for just being honest and transparent about where your company fits in the ecosystem, and and I'll just kind of pass the torch to you. If those that are listening now, what do you tell them next if they say, "Hey, I'm having challenges, or I'm considering to launch a potential regulated business, firearms, and other things"? What should the next steps be moving forward?
Yeah, reach out to us. Let's just have a conversation. We're a very non-intrusive sales group. That's the best way you could probably put it. We love explaining the why behind things, even if it makes things a little uncomfortable, because we'd rather you guys be informed. So reach out to us. You can give us a call at 888-959-4205. Definitely just select the sales option and you'll get someone on the sales team. You can also go on to AltruPay.com, click in the upper right-hand corner. You can complete a full application, start the process, just dive in deep. I always love those kind of people, but if you're hesitant and just want to have a conversation, there's also a contact us form on the website, and it's right there on the first page. Right when you log on, you'll see it towards the right side. Fill that out. It'll also come in, and someone from the team will reach out to you. Or just give us a call or complete those forms. Let us give you a call, and let's just have a chat.
Beautiful. Well, this is lovely. Well, thanks, Bill, for coming on the show today. Very, very eye-opening, and this is exciting. So continue doing what you're doing, because I think you're being very impactful for the brands in these kind of regulated markets. So good on you.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for having us, and hopefully this is not the first or the last.
Yeah, you got it. All right. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.